All right, viewers, thanks for tuning into the live stream. We will get your comments onto the screen momentarily here. And we are streaming live for absolutely no reason. Or is there a reason? We'll have to let you know during the stream if there was any purpose to streaming at all. And if you've got some kind of a news story you'd like us to cover, let us know in the comments. So, in all seriousness, we've got some things to talk about, some various different news about what the channel's doing and so on. So, first of all, just taking my new phone and hurling it on the table accidentally. Yes. Just kidding, folks. No damage. No phones were damaged in the production of this video. So I wanted to talk about some certain stories that we have here. And first, I would remind our viewers to press like and subscribe. This one is a YouTube exclusive. So wherever you're watching, it's on YouTube. That's where you're watching, most assuredly. And let's talk about some stories. So first, cultists. So we had a story about we're gonna actually do a video about cultists and cults. It's gonna be I guess it'll be a smash hole of the week segment. And we put up a poll on Twitter, which we got a whopping 3 responses to, I think. People didn't really want to vote very much on cults. But in any case, we only have 127 followers on Twitter. But in any case, but I digress. The question was, hypothetically, if you're in a cult, do you believe nonsense because you think the nonsense will benefit outsiders or just to recruit other cultists? So that's sort of the common thread with being in a cult, is believing nonsense. And let's move on. So that was the overwhelming response, by the way. Nobody voted that cultists think that their cult is going to benefit mankind through the nonsense they believe. Which means the brain must be working. They must be thinking of something, folks, because maybe they've realized that the nonsense is nonsense, but they just continue to double down because they figure that they're too deeply invested in nonsense. So I think that could have something to do with it, folks. It's an intellectual inertia that can happen. And it's part of the reason why people don't snap out of certain understandings of physics, let's just say. Continuing on, one of the guys who says a lot of things about climate is Ned Nikolov, which is at Nikolov Science on Twitter if you want to follow that guy. Who asks a question, and I believe he's in the U.S., so he's allowed. The question is, why are we spending billions of dollars on COVID vaccines with questionable safety profiles when there are tens of existing FDA-approved drugs that can be used to effectively treat COVID infections in a safe manner? An interesting and perhaps controversial point of view, which is not necessarily the view of the Smash News Network. So just don't ban our channel from YouTube because we've said something so controversial as there may be effective treatments for a virus, things besides a vaccine, which would, yeah. Anyway, continuing on. Have you seen our recent video on YouTube about, and thanks for leaving comments, Mr. Keebler, have you seen our recent YouTube video about the solar polar fields and their progression? I don't even remember what the title is, folks. So the title is Solar Polar Fields. I seriously can't remember the title. I apologize. It is on our playlist, though. You can find that in the cosmology segment and the daily space weather playlists. It's Solar Polar Fields now versus 2010, completely incongruent to previous cycle field progression. Between what the sun was doing. So maybe you haven't seen that one. I'm going to play a tiny teaser here. I'm going to make a quick video here. I'm going to play a tiny teaser here from this one. This is what the solar polar fields looked like almost precisely 11 years ago. You would think it may be at the same place through the progression of the solar cycle, but our regular daily space weather viewers would probably tend to disagree. And we will add that one to the end screen later, but solar polar fields now versus 2010, completely incongruent to previous cycle progression. And again, you can find all of our playlists at youtube.com/smAshomash/playlists. So what's going on, Keebs? Keebs says, nonsensical. Gonna try to shut up song done this. Oh, yeah, Keebs. Keebs is making a new song. And it's going to go a little like this. Shut up, Fauci. Fauci, shut up. Fauci came from a grotesque side of town. And when he opens his face, we think he should shut it down. Fauci, I'm not sure anybody listens to you. So why not keep yourself off of the mainstream news? So unlike Cuomo, shut up, Fauci. Fauci, shut up. Yeah, that's the... And writing credit to Pat Gray of The Blaze, by the way, who wrote Fauci, shut up. We have to include Pat Gray of The Blaze as a co-writer of the song, Keebs. So I don't know if you're aware of this. He's the one who came up with the idea. But we'll make the whole song up out of it. And maybe that'll gain us a couple subscribers. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if he'll notice that or not, or if they'll play it on any national radio shows or anything like that. But it helps. The point is, folks, it helps to be ahead of the curve. So let's take some Americans by the patty and go to smAshomash.com/forum so we can show Americans and the rest of the world, as the rest of the world has had a pretty pathetic response as well to the COVID. We'll take you by the patty and take you to smAshomash.com/forum. You just click on the word forum. You can find it on the homepage at smAshomash.com. There's a link. We wouldn't want you to have to type something in a URL bar. I know it's very difficult to type that many characters, especially if you're looking at a smartphone. But if you head to smAshomash.com/forum, and it's free, you don't even have to create a login to see the content. You just have to create a login to add content. And if you come down here to the free-for-all forum, you'll see Biden-Harris 2020, which is actually sort of it's sort of supposed to be comedic. I put my Liberace and Aleister Crowley, the ghosts of meme here. You know, we thought maybe they were going to run for president. And so there are a bunch of memes on here that you can find. Hey, look, it's Obama's coattails. They've been extended. No, but seriously, if you go to the free-for-all forum, folks, and I'm going to actually repin this because the COVID doesn't seem to end. We stopped covering it in July of last year, but I'm going to repin this because I'm going to sticky this. I'm going to make it a global sticky. Okay? It's a global sticky. So on any of the forum threads, you'll find coronavirus. And so this is over 30 pages in length. And this is just all the information from Wikipedia at the time of January 23rd, copied and pasted onto our forum. Now, I'm not sure if it's changed, but you'll be able to see what's changed on the wiki article since then, which is why we copy pasted things. But there are also posts in here from our users interspersed on these 30 pages. So I think it's actually 34 pages, and we covered this every day. I think I might have missed one day. There was some kind of an update on every single day from January 23rd into July. So that's why we've got this 30-page article here. And again, you can find that at smAsho.com. There's a link to the forum right there. And we've got it stickied to all the forum threads. So here are early news stories. We made sure that we copy-pasted the entire article so that if they get scrubbed or changed, we'll have a record of it, hosted on our own website, because, well, when you see the writing on the wall, because people keep changing their own news and scrubbing their own stories, we decided to become our own news and make it impossible for them to scrub the stories and do commentary on it. So here you can see all that. This is just page 1. And again, there are 34 pages of daily updated information. There's information about silver prices when it was less than $12 per ounce. Does anybody remember that? Can I get a comment? Anybody who actually viewed the forum? I'll just let this continue to scroll here so that I can take our viewers by the patty and show you some early and late numbers. Now, we stopped covering this in July for reasons that I will not disclose. But let's just say I wasn't forced. I voluntarily stopped covering the COVID every day. Something like July 23rd of last year, I ghosted my posts. I don't know if anybody's posted since then. In fact, let me check. Let me see if anybody's put any posts on the tail end of this thing, because I think most of our viewers decided to stop paying attention also. Mary's last post was on July 15th, 2020. My last post was on July 10th, 2020. So there you go. Here's page 2. I'm just going to scroll a little bit on page 2 just to get a little jogging of my memory. On February 1st, Terry Leonard says, "One thing for certain, censorship is ramped up to a new high, unlikely to return to free speech again. Twitter is literally scrubbed of, quote, coronavirus and, quote, news, unless it is pre-approved by censors. I expect all social media, I hate to call it that, posts pertaining to, quote, coronavirus and, quote, will be scrutinized closely." Yes. So Terry was ahead of the curve, as he was calling that on February 1st, 2020. When Philippines reports first coronavirus death outside of China. Yes. Are you starting to see some dots get connected, folks? This is why we covered this in this fashion. And I painstakingly copy-pasted and sourced all of these documents. You'll be able to do a fantastic job of seeing what anybody has done to change articles or remove articles entirely by using our links. Pretty much every single article is properly linked. You can see right there is the source. That one was an AP News source story. So at the bottom, we've put a hyperlink to every one of those, starting on January 23rd. And this brings me to another point. So the month of April will be our fundraising month once again, and we'll be giving away a free month of Patreon. So we still haven't decided what exactly we want the contest to be. We'll maybe create some sort of a game or something. I don't know, but we're going to set up a little intro to Patreon, where one of our viewers will be able to win a 1-month Patreon at the lowest tier membership, I think it'll be, just so that people have some idea of what our patrons receive. And, patrons, feel free to leave comments and let us know what your reasoning is to be funding the Smash News Network. And for you new viewers out there, if you're wondering why my head tends to be see-through like this, it's to preserve as much of the background as we possibly can, because a lot of times we show data. So one of the reasons why I like to wear sunglasses is to make my head transparent. And that's why I wear these silly glasses sometimes, because it actually makes my head even more transparent. Max headroom. Whoa. So yeah, so that's a thing. That's a thing that's going to be going on in the month of April. Somebody will get a free month of Patreon, and you'll be hazed into the Smash team. Men in black suits will show up at your front door and ask you if you've seen alien spaceships, and ask you if you have a large cache of liquid metallic hydrogen in your basement, how many diamond anvils you've installed. By the way, look for a new episode of Diamond Anvil coming up soon. We've got to do another one. Actually, there are really two that we sort of have to do that are pretty complicated. One on coronal holes and one on cosmic rays. So that's some more stuff about what the channel will be up to. Look for that contest coming. And just back to our tome of information here about coronavirus. Again, this is just simply page 2. There are 34 pages here. So let's just skip ahead here. I'll go to, page 8. Let's go to page 8. So one of the things very early on is people were saying you should focus on your general health, because most healthy people just see very minor symptoms from most types of coronaviruses. And I'm not talking about COVID. I'm just talking in general here, folks. So don't take this as medical misinformation or anything like that. But focusing on your general health is always a wise move. We talked about ketogenic diets and all kinds of things. So here on March 4th, here is the Fed cutting rates sharply in response to coronavirus risk to economy and markets. As the range went from 1.5% to 1.25%, or I think it went from 1.25% to 1%. But the Fed cut the prime lending rate, is the point. To which Donald Trump said, the Federal Reserve is cutting, but it must further ease and most importantly, come into line with other countries/competitors. We are not playing on a level field, not fair to USA. It's finally time for Federal Reserve to lead more easing and cutting. So now, and of course, this is one of the reasons why I was not a supporter of Donald Trump in the days of the primary. So in the 2016 primary, I was delighted at the prospect of a Rand Paul presidency. And later, pretty pleased with the prospect of a Ted Cruz presidency, but certainly not a Donald Trump presidency. However, when you run somebody against Hillary Clinton, I would have voted for a potted plant, a solar calculator from the late 1980s, or the ghost of Liberace and Aleister Crowley ahead of Hillary Clinton. So that being said, and notice how I have not divulged if I've ever voted in my entire life during the streaming of this video. You feel free to think what you may of me and try to put me in a box. you'll notice that I don't fit and you've destroyed your box. So let's see what else we have here on the coronavirus thread. Who expected to see a Donald Trump tweet? Yeah, that's right. There's a Donald Trump tweet. On March 5th, Fauci warns outbreak could overwhelm U.S. healthcare system. California declares state of emergency. Live updates as reported by Tyler Durden, lead author at Zero Hedge. And let me just check the life of the stream here and check your chats as I see more chats coming through. And thanks for leaving comments, Mr. Keebler. Pretty soon it's going to be time to sing about how Fauci should shut up. And we're not going to talk about economics or anything like that. I'm just going to continue on with the COVID. So I can walk everybody by the patty through all of this information. Brazil records third case on March 5th. Or at least that was the report on that day. South Korea reported 438 new cases, bringing the national total to 5,766. China reported a drop in cases a couple days before this on Wednesday. Wednesday. I don't know what day of the week it was. I don't really care. Continuing on. Dr. Fauci said 15 to 20% of people who get coronavirus will need hospitalization. Think about the scale of that if the virus spreads. This is why testing is so important to help contain the virus. And why the House will pass a supplemental funding package to combat coronavirus. Most people who contract coronavirus experience a flu-like situation, Dr. Fauci says, and will be okay. Here at the Smash News Network, we want you to be okay. Although the likelihood of that seems kind of low. Are you okay with permanent lockdowns and mask wearing and vaccination mandates? Leave us a comment and let us know how okay you are with that. The Smash News Network may take some exception to some of those means by which to control a virus. I ask you, the viewer, do you know how effective mask wearing was at controlling viruses 100 years ago? What about 30 years ago? 10 years ago? 5 years ago? What about 2 years ago? And what about last year? Were masks effective at controlling a virus last year, folks? Where did the numbers go after mask mandates? Did cases instantly go down? Did cases go down 2 weeks after mask mandates were implemented in places? I don't remember. I just don't seem to have the facts in front of me. So I won't say any comment about it, except to say, well, did they? Were the masks effective? Were the lockdowns effective? If they were effective, how come we have to do it more? Don't you find that? Isn't that? It seems like kind of basic logic. What do you think? Leave us a comment and let us know. Yeah, masks. When did those work to prevent infectious disease outbreaks? Did those work in the 1300s? I can't seem to recall. Can somebody look it up on Wikipedia for me and let me know? So just continuing on here. Pence ended his latest briefing by claiming, quote, the risk of the coronavirus to the average American remains low, then walked off without answering Brian Karam's question about, can the uninsured get tested? Oh, no, the uninsured. How about the asymptomatic? Can the asymptomatic get tested? And the real question you have to ask yourself is, why? Why would the asymptomatic get tested? It's just ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. The idea that there's any purpose to go get tested if you have zero symptoms of anything or change your behavior in any way is it smart? Does it make any sense? Is it effective? Those are the questions that I pose to you, the viewer, as we prefer to create thought here instead of confusion. Ah, yes. I'm living on coffee alone, folks. Coffee alone. Here's a Trump tweet. How about a Trump tweet? If you leave us a comment, we'll read a Trump tweet. But until then, we're unable to read the Trump tweet because of financial reasons. We're shut down until somebody leaves a comment, and then we can read the Trump quote. So I'll just have to sit here and sing Jerry Lewis songs. I'll just have to sit here and what should I do? I could sing a Christmas carol. How about, it's beginning to look a lot like Franyo everywhere all the livelong day. But the prettiest sight you'll see is accountability. In 2021. In 2021. Okay, I see a comment. I see a thumbs up. So I'll read a Trump tweet now. I know you're all dying for a Trump tweet. So here we go. Congress has agreed to provide $8 billion to fight coronavirus. This means CDC Gov, HHS.gov, and DHS Gov will have the resources they need to keep America safe and keep the risk to workers and families very low. This is great news for our health, our economy, and our nation. That held up well. Does that seem like a little bit of a dated tweet to you? Let me read that again. Congress has agreed to provide $8 billion to fight coronavirus. This means CDC, Homeland Health and Human Services, and DHS, Department of Human Suffering.gov, will have the resources they need to keep America safe and keep the risk to workers and families very low. This is great risk. I mean, this is great news for our health, our economy, and our nation. And thanks for leaving a comment, Consquatch and Christine, and most of all, Mr. Keebs. We'll be talking all about how Fauci should shut up very soon. And there are your comments on the screen. Keep them coming. Perhaps we will feature more as I continue to scroll down here on page 8 here at smashamash.com/forum in the coronavirus forum, which has now been stickied to every single forum thread. Just to show, if you were wondering what was happening on, I don't know, March 6th, well, how about March 7th? Oh, look, here's what I had to say on March 7th. Let's see how accurate I was. This entire outbreak may be much ado about nothing. The fatality rate is much lower than is being reported for one simple reason. This is not conjecture nor a political ploy to downplay a significant threat. There are possibly billions of unreported cases, like West Nile virus, also not a threat to anybody healthy whatsoever. Coronavirus is not particularly dangerous, as I've stated since January 23rd. The reaction of certain people is completely disproportional to the actual threat. And this is either intentional or accidental. If it's intentional, it's likely an attempt to increase the surveillance state's scope, cause general chaos, always a formula for increased scrutiny and control over your life, or, all caps, crash the U.S. stock market. That looks like it'll largely fail as central banks continue to pump money into the bubble economy. The good news is that the U.S. is looking better than everywhere else. The inflation of U.S. dollars is bad news for most Americans. Still, obvious bond purchasing make the greenback look superior to most other world currencies. The anomalies recently in the precious metals markets are highly suspect of an intentional media fraud / scam. I'm looking at lots of variables here, so feel free to comment and share your thoughts. I've actually been looking for that post for quite a while. Apparently it happened on March 7th. And if you remember, what were silver prices on March 7th? Let's go take a look. Let's just take a look at silver prices on March 7th, shall we? Silver prices were still at, I don't know, $17 and change, something like that, somewhere around 17 bucks an ounce. And just after that, they went to below $12 an ounce. So I just figured I would just show that little connection there. But the stock market crashed. The bond market, the bond yields went up at the same time. Crypto crashed. Everything mysteriously crashed all at the same time. Why? Well, I don't know what to tell you. You may have to go to smAsho.com/forum and read about it, but there's a little interesting information you've got there. So, were you following our advice last year? One of our viewers doubled her money on silver. Terry says he believes it's bioengineered, not zoonotic, and Terry's opinions are not necessarily the opinions at smAsho.com. You can pretty much post whatever you want here, folks, as long as it's within the confines of the law. We are free speech advocates. And I'm not saying I agree nor disagree with Terry's post there. I know there are cases to be made for the likelihood of man-madeness to be going on with the COVID. Here's an interesting article. This one is from FETI Group, originally found on Zero Hedge. I'll put it on the screen for you. And let me just scroll your chats here before I continue on. Christine Davis says biggest scam in history. Consquatch says $8 billion for Big Pharma. Design to destroy nation's economy so the wealthy can get richer. The Great Reset. Big Pharma is terrible. It's all money. I'm all too aware. Christine says, hopefully the Democrats can't do enough damage so they can make their own dreams come true and turn us into the Great Reset. Consquatch says, they make more money off treatment and spend pennies on prevention. Dean Howell says, and yet you're still here on YouTube? How, when everyone else got axed? It's because I decided to conform enough to the rules to not get banned. So far. Anyway, continuing on, and thanks again for leaving comments, folks. Most of our videos remain monetized as well because I know when to make a statement and ask a question. So here's an interesting article here about Liebig's law of minimum. I'll just let it scroll for a moment. In fact, I'll let it scroll all the way to the end. If you want to read it by parsing the video, feel free. Feel free to press pause, as we'll be here when you get back. but not for long because I'm going to close this thing out very shortly. Some experts believe the coronavirus will manifest as the worst strike since the 1918 Spanish flu. The coronavirus is highly disturbing due to its high infectiousness and level of severity. As it worsens, global media outlets will show more depressing stories about closings of schools, factories, and events. They will show stories about production failure, panicked markets, government feebleness, food insecurity, and factors that spread and amplify fear and uncertainty. Financial markets are unlikely able to hold such high valuations. Why? With a current all-time low unemployment rate of 3.5, and so on and so forth, is what you'll find at smAsho.com/forum. And again, that was from either the 9th or the 10th of March. That was from March 9th. In any case, it's about time to close this thing out. Thanks again for leaving comments, everybody. If you didn't watch live, feel free to leave comments as well. Go set up a login if you have things you would like to add to the coronavirus thread. Feel free. You're welcome. Keep it within the confines of the law, and it will not be censored. Again, we are free speech advocates. If you enjoy the content, don't forget to press like and subscribe. Share with your friends and foes, your noobs and politics pros. And maybe noobs. Noobs and news and politics, it all goes together, folks. So in any case, thanks for tuning in once again, folks. I've been your host, Dan, a.k.a. smAsho, and it's about that time.